It was 9 o'clock in the evening when Bill finally resolved to confront the situation and headed upstairs to the bedroom. Anna, his stunning 26-year-old wife, was in the middle of preparing to go out with her friends. Last Friday's outing with these same women hadn't sat well with him, and the idea of this turning into a weekly habit was something he wasn't ready or willing to accept. As he stepped into the room, she caught the look on his face and let out a sigh. "You're not going to sulk about this again, are you?" she asked, her tone a mix of exasperation and resignation. Bill's gaze drifted to the tiny dress draped neatly across the bed and the sensual sky-blue lingerie she was wearing. The delicate fabric hugged her figure in a way that made her look undeniably captivating. "I don't recall seeing these before," he said, gesturing toward the ensemble. A faint blush crept across her cheeks as she hesitated. "Well, yeah, I just bought them earlier this week," she admitted. Bill lingered for a moment, then turned and went into the bathroom. He returned holding a set of her usual undergarments, a plain and practical bra and panties retrieved from the laundry basket. "Tell me," he began, holding up the unremarkable items for emphasis. "Is this what's normal for a husband to see his wife in?" Then, shifting his attention back to the enticing lingerie, he added pointedly, "But you're perfectly okay slipping into this." He gestured to the revealing sky-blue bra and lacy thong, leaving very little to the imagination. "For a bunch of guys you don't even know." Anna's eyes widened as he continued, his tone growing sharper. "Unless, of course." He let the pause hang in the air, his voice taking on a more meaningful edge. "Unless tonight isn't just a casual night out with the girls. Maybe you've got someone waiting for you there. Like a date." Anna stared at him, visibly offended. "No, how could you even think that?" she exclaimed, her voice rising with indignation. Ignoring her protest, Bill carefully picked his words. "So, when you're out with your friends, you're telling me you never dance with other men? You don't let them get close, embrace you, or, heaven forbid, kiss you?" Her face hardened, and her voice turned sharp. "How dare you even suggest that?" "I dare," he replied evenly, "because I happen to know a lot more about your friends than you think." His tone carried a quiet authority now. "One of them is single, 2 are divorced, and then there's you rounding out the group. Do you seriously expect me to believe that, when they're out chasing casual hookups, they're not trying to drag you along for the ride?" Anna's voice grew louder, defensive. "How dare you judge them?" "I'm not judging," he said, keeping his composure. "They're free to make their own choices, just as you are." Her eyes narrowed, suspicion creeping into her expression. "So, are you saying I shouldn't go?" she demanded. "How is that giving me a choice?" "I'm not forbidding you to go out," he said, his voice steady. "I'm just being honest about how I feel. I think it's inappropriate for a married woman to be in those situations, and I believe your friends are putting you in positions that will only lead to trouble, for both of us." Anna scoffed at his words, clearly unimpressed. "Are you seriously trying to tell me that a few nights out with my girlfriends could put our marriage at risk? That's ridiculous." "I think it's worth being worried about," Bill countered, his voice growing firmer. "You're the most beautiful woman I know, and you're going to clubs with single women I don't trust. Throw in alcohol and men on the prowl, and you're practically inviting disaster." He raised a hand, stopping her before she could cut him off. "And let's not pretend our marriage isn't already strained when you expect me to just accept this." He motioned toward her nearly naked form, the provocative lingerie making his point. Anna, now applying the finishing touches to her makeup, brushed him off. "It's too late for this, Bill. I already promised I'd meet them at 10. You're just trying to make me late now." Realizing he was running out of time, Bill made one final attempt. "You also promised to respect your husband," he said, his voice heavy with meaning. "Apparently, you're perfectly fine breaking that promise," Bill said pointedly, his tone growing colder. "Or is it that your friend's feelings matter more to you than mine?" Anna's eyes flashed with anger. "What the hell is wrong with you? Don't you trust me?" she snapped. "I'm just going out for drinks with the girls. Nothing more. Now, for heaven's sake, leave me alone." Bill let out a deep, weary sigh. "It's not that I don't want to trust you," he said, his voice laced with frustration. "But I refuse to sit at home every Friday night, wondering if you'll cross a line, whether it's intentional or not, or end up flirting with some guy by accident." "I would never do that," she protested, but he cut her off before she could continue. "Gail bragged all over social media about what she got up to last week," he countered, his gaze steady. "She's one of your friends, and you know exactly what I'm talking about. How much time has to pass before I start to believe everything's fine? If I even find out at all?" Anna stared at him, momentarily speechless, as his words sank in. Before she could formulate a response, he pressed on, his tone now firm and resolute. "If dancing is what you want, invite me to come with you. But if your goal is to mingle with strangers, then just say so, and we'll end this right here and now." "You're just being insulting," she shot back angrily. "No," Bill replied, his voice calm but unwavering. "I'm being honest. I don't think you're just out there for some harmless dirty dancing or casual kisses, chasing attention, or worse, a fling. I'm willing to believe you haven't cheated, but I'm giving you a choice. Stay or leave. It's up to you. Just remember, I have a choice too. If you walk out that door, you can party as much as you like, but don't expect me to be here waiting when you come back." There it was, the ultimatum. Bill had laid everything out, made his feelings unmistakably clear. He had tried to make her understand, to let her see that his desire wasn't to control her, but to salvage their marriage. Now the ball was in her court, him or them. "You've got to be kidding me," she burst out, angrier than he had ever seen her in their 4 years together. "No," Bill said quietly, his tone steady. "If you want to dress like your friends and hit the clubs every Friday night, go ahead. I'm just telling you that the life of me sitting at home, waiting for you to come back, isn't the kind of future I want. Not for me, not for us." He turned toward the door, his voice soft but firm. "I've said what I needed to say. I'll be downstairs. Let me know when you've made your decision." Anna sat at her vanity, staring at her reflection as her thoughts churned. She hadn't gone all the way with anyone, but last week, she had flirted with a guy, feeling a temptation she hadn't felt in years. She loved the way men's eyes followed her on the dance floor, how their looks made her feel desired and irresistible. Bill always told her she looked beautiful, but he was her husband. Wasn't he supposed to say that? The men at the club, though, they wanted her. They craved her. Downstairs, Bill sat at his laptop, quietly filling out an online form. The clock ticked to 10:10 when he heard her descending the stairs. He looked up, waiting for her choice to reveal itself. She was dressed to impress, her high heels accentuating her long, slender legs that disappeared into the hem of a short, tight blue dress. He said nothing, waiting to see if she'd extend an invitation to him, or if she was leaving to meet her friends. She stood there, hesitation flickering across her face. Then finally she spoke. "I'm leaving. We can talk about this tomorrow," she said, her tone flat. Bill shook his head slowly, his expression unreadable, and turned back to his computer without a word. His silence lingered, leaving her unsure if he was serious or bluffing. A moment later, she walked out, shutting the door behind her. He didn't even register the sound of it closing. Instead, he finished filling out the form, attached the link to an email, and hit send. Once that was done, he went upstairs, grabbed a couple of suitcases, and began packing clothes. By Monday, he'd have everything ready. He already knew what he had to do. By the time Bill made his decision, he had no doubts about what needed to be done. He called his boss and confirmed that he was accepting the job offer in Dubai. As he waited for the taxi to arrive, he composed a message to Anna's family group chat. "Hello, everyone. I'm sorry you're finding out this way, but Anna has made it abundantly clear that she needs more excitement and variety in her life than I can provide. I've sent her the link to our divorce statement via email. It's been an honor to be part of your family, but I hope you'll understand why I've decided not to maintain any further contact with you from this point onward." With that, Bill put his phone down and moved on to his next task. At the printer, he grabbed a sheet of paper, wrote something on it, and taped it over their wedding photo above the fireplace. Satisfied, he turned off his phone and stepped outside to wait for his taxi. Meanwhile, at the club, Anna had just settled into a booth with Gail, laughing and chatting. When her phone buzzed, she glanced at the screen. "If this is Bill begging me to come home," she muttered irritably, but the caller ID showed her sister Karen instead. "Where the hell are you right now?" Karen's voice was sharp and accusatory. "I'm at the club with my friends," Anna said defensively. "Does Bill know?" Karen demanded. "Yeah, well, sort of. He knows I'm out with friends." "What's the problem?" Anna's irritation grew, but there was a nervous edge to her voice. "What's the problem?" Karen repeated, incredulous. "He's not happy about it, is he? Did he seem fine when you left?" Anna hesitated, then shrugged as if Karen could see her. "No, he wasn't thrilled. But I told him we'd talk about it tomorrow." Karen's scoff came loud and clear through the phone. "Good luck with that, you idiot. He dumped you. Don't believe me? Check your email." Anna froze, her heart racing as she fumbled to open her email app. Gail leaned in, watching with curiosity as Anna's face turned pale, even under the dim club lighting. The email stared back at her, Bill's message to her family group chat. That's what had triggered Karen's call. Before Anna could react further, her phone buzzed again. Relief washed over her for a brief moment. "It's Bill," she murmured, but her relief was short-lived. The caller was her father. "What did you do to Bill?" her father demanded, his voice thunderous with anger. "That man treated you like a queen, and this is how you repay him?" "It's not like that, Dad," Anna protested, her voice cracking. I needed space. I felt trapped. I only wanted one night a week to be myself." "Your husband just walked out on you, and your answer is to go dancing at a nightclub?" her father roared. "You're in a damn club, Anna. Do you even hear yourself?" "Dad, no, listen to me." Anna stammered, but the noise of the club made it obvious where she was. Her father cut her off. "You're unbelievable." And with that, he hung up. Anna sat there for a moment, stunned, before grabbing her purse and phone and bolting for the exit. She ignored Gail's bewildered questions and didn't even notice her other friends as she passed them. Flagging down a taxi, she climbed in and directed the driver home. On the way, she tried calling Bill repeatedly, but his phone went straight to voicemail every time. By the time she reached the house, her stomach was churning with anxiety. Inside, the silence hit her like a wall. She kicked off her heels and dashed upstairs. His side of the closet was empty. His shaving kit was gone. Back downstairs, she checked for his phone, laptop, and wallet. None of them were there. Even his passport was missing. Her heart sank as the realization hit her. Bill had warned her. He wouldn't tolerate ambiguity or half-truths. He had told her exactly what would happen if she chose to walk out that night. He had always been clear about his hatred for lies. His actions left no room for doubt. He had meant every word. Descending the stairs in a daze, Anna felt the weight of her mistake. An hour ago, she'd been married. Now they were separated. Less than a year later, they'd be divorced. All because she'd wanted to go dancing. Her gaze fell on the wedding photo above the fireplace. Something about it looked off. Stepping closer, she realized what Bill had done. He had replaced the photo with a snapshot pulled from someone's social media. It showed a man kneeling to propose to his girlfriend. But in the background, clear as day, was Anna. She was kissing another man, his hand resting boldly on her chest. Across the bottom of the image, Bill had scrawled one word in bold black letters. Liar. Anna clutched her stomach, bile rising in her throat. She felt like she might be sick. Our high school football coach used to drill one thing into our heads at every practice. Stay alert. I played defense, and he taught me the importance of reading my opponent, watching their every move and predicting what they'd do next. Success on the field, he said, came down to anticipation. I wasn't the best player out there, but I managed to earn a full scholarship to a Division III college, where I majored in business. It was during my junior year that I met Lucille. She was my partner for a class project. A cheerful redhead with a warm, outgoing nature. One thing led to another, sparks flew, and by the summer after graduation we were married. That project we worked on together turned out better than either of us expected. It was so impressive that it landed us both internships at one of the city's largest companies. She ended up in sales and I started in accounting. For anyone trying to understand us, that says it all. Her charm and social skills made her a natural in sales, while my meticulous, numbers-driven approach suited accounting perfectly. Over the years, we built a life together and raised 3 daughters. After the third, we stopped trying for a boy. A little over a year ago, the last of our girls moved out, leaving the house eerily quiet. After 24 years of shared breakfasts, dinners, and the constant buzz of family life, the silence felt oppressive. I decided we needed a change, so I planned a trip to the Smoky Mountains. I wanted it to be just the two of us, no distractions. We both loved country music, so I figured we might catch a performance by an artist either on the rise or well past their prime. The leaf-covered trails would be perfect for hiking, and I hoped the cozy cabin, complete with a king-sized bed and a hot tub on the porch, would help us reconnect. The trip was everything I'd hoped for. We laughed, danced, and held each other like we hadn't in years. We reminisced about the ups and downs of our journey together, from our early struggles to the bright moments that defined our family. Life had always felt like a series of milestones we were rushing to meet, and for once we had the time to simply enjoy being together. The hot tub became our favorite spot and we used it, well, let's just say often. When we returned home, our shared meals took on a new warmth, and our love life stayed as vibrant as it had been during the trip. Every couple of weekends, I'd plan a special outing for Lucille and me, dinners, shows, or walks in the park. Life as empty nesters was shaping up to be even better than I'd imagined. But then came the annual company Christmas party. Lucille, being in sales, knew everyone. Meanwhile, I, working in accounting, knew almost no one, and I had no real desire to change that. Small talk about other people's kids, school grades, or weekend plans didn't interest me. I preferred conversations about more substantial topics: bad calls in the NBA, the exploitation of student athletes by mega college programs, that kind of thing. At corporate events, Lucille and I had a system. We'd split up, socialize separately, and later trade stories about who said what. It was a routine that often ended with, let's call it an enthusiastic recap session once we got home. This year, though, things felt off. Layoffs, remote work, and other changes had thinned the usual crowd. I wandered around, drink in hand, scanning the room. Lucille was nowhere to be seen. I finally spotted Abby, one of her co-workers. "Hey, have you seen Lucille?" I asked casually. Abby hesitated, her eyes darting away. Yeah, I think she was just here with Brent and Kevin." Brent Masters was Lucille's boss, and Kevin was another coworker I'd met a few times. Something about Abby's uneasy tone made the hair on the back of my neck stand up. A moment later, the 3 of them walked in from outside, laughing and carrying drinks. They were fully dressed, and nothing seemed outwardly suspicious, but a nagging doubt crept into my mind. I told myself not to jump to conclusions. Lucille spotted me across the room and beamed, making her way over. "Duncan, you've finally decided to rejoin the land of the living," she teased, planting a quick kiss on my cheek. It was a perfectly casual gesture. Nothing about it screamed guilt. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. Lucille took my hand and led me toward a group of her sales and support coworkers, all laughing at some joke. Her charm lit up the room as it always did. I stayed for a while, playing the role of the supportive husband, but something about that night planted a seed of unease in me. After the party, I began to notice subtle changes in our routine, little cracks in the foundation of what I'd always considered the anchor of our relationship: our shared breakfasts and dinners. One morning, she skipped breakfast entirely, claiming she had an early meeting. The following week, it was dinner she missed, citing another late-night work commitment. Even our once vibrant sex life seemed to lose its spark. Looking back now, I realized this was the beginning of a shift, a wedge slowly driving us apart. By spring, Lucille started disappearing without explanation. If she wasn't gone, she spent more and more time away from home, absorbed in work. It was all so gradual, so subtle, that I didn't see the bigger picture until much later. In April, she came home with a special quarterly bonus. She was beaming with pride, and for a moment, I convinced myself all her late nights were just the price of her success. It almost felt worth it. Then everything came to a head while we were planning for Memorial Day weekend. Over one of our increasingly quiet dinners, Lucille broke the silence. "Duncan, we need to talk." I looked up, setting my fork down. "What's on your mind?" She took a deep breath. "Next week, after Memorial Day, the company is hosting a golf tournament for our top independent representatives in Myrtle Beach. I'll be gone from Tuesday until Sunday." "That sounds exciting," I replied cautiously. "Where are we staying?" She gave me a tight smile. "You're not coming. It's strictly for salespeople. Since you're in accounting, you don't qualify." "I can pay my own way," I countered. "You're not planning to spend every waking moment working, are you?" Her expression shifted, a mix of annoyance and exasperation. "Duncan, you'd be the only spouse there. It'd be awkward. Honestly, it would look like my overbearing husband doesn't trust his wife and has to tag along to keep tabs on her. Is that how you want to come across?" I leaned back, crossing my arms. "Overbearing husband, huh? Is that what you think of me?" "That's not what I'm saying," she sighed. "But that's how it would look. Don't take it personally." "What about our plans to take the girls to the Keys?" I asked pointedly. Her eyes widened. "Oh damn, I completely forgot about that. Look, I'm sorry, Duncan, but this is a corporate event. Even if I'd remembered, I'd still have to go. Can't we reschedule?" "The girls already have their summer plans lined up," she replied, shaking her head. "Why don't you reschedule for Brent?" I shot back, my voice laced with sarcasm. "It wouldn't be the first time you've gone out of your way for him, or slept with him." Lucille froze, her mouth falling open like a fish gasping for air. "What the hell are you talking about?" "I'm talking about how, after the Christmas party, you and Brent started having lunch together several times a week. At first, it was with others, but then it became just the two of you. About how your first meeting at the Pleasant Night Motel was the day before Valentine's Day. Since then, you've been having weekly rendezvous there, indulging in your little affair. And let's not forget your plan to leave me, and Sheila, his wife, after Memorial Day, using this golf tournament as your excuse." Her face shifted through a whirlwind of emotions. Fear, guilt, shock, and anger. "Where are you getting these insane ideas? You either forgot or didn't know that Brent is a serial womanizer," I continued, my tone cold. "He's left a trail of wreckage in your department, and you're just his latest conquest. Hell, he even dumped Brenda Thomas right before Valentine's Day. Brutal timing, wouldn't you say? Of course, that wasn't a smart move on his part, because Brenda isn't the type to let things slide. She came to me, Lucille. She told me everything during the company's Valentine's Day lunch." Lucille's eyes widened, her face going pale. "Brenda gave me all the details," I said, pressing on. "Brent's favorite restaurants. The days he can sneak away without his wife noticing. Even his so-called plans for this golf tournament. And by the way, Lucille, there aren't any meetings with company representatives after Memorial Day. None." Her voice was barely above a whisper. "You've got this all wrong." "Oh, really?" I said, leaning forward. "You did know Brent is married, didn't you? To Madison, who used to compete in beauty pageants. Oh, and he has 3 kids, all still in middle and high school." Lucille's face turned ashen, the color draining completely. Clearly, this conversation wasn't unfolding the way she'd expected. Tough luck. She shook her head slowly, as if trying to process what I just said. I didn't stop. "So, you didn't know he dumped Brenda? Or that he's married and has school-aged kids?" Her voice was barely audible. "No, I didn't know either of those things." "Oh, I see. You just arrogantly assumed he was some happy bachelor, right? That you were so irresistibly sexy he couldn't keep his hands off you? For some inexplicable reason, this charming man just happened to be unattached, couldn't wait to jump into bed with you, and conveniently had no baggage." I shook my head, unable to contain my bitterness. "I thought you were smarter than that, Lucille. But clearly I was wrong. Not only do you lack morals and decency, but, surprise, surprise, you don't even have any brains. I stood up, pushing my chair back. All right. She blinked at me, confused. What do you mean, all right? Exactly what I said. All right. Throughout our marriage, I've given you everything you ever wanted. We didn't need a house this big, but you insisted, so we bought it. The interior design, exactly how you wanted it. Your car, your clothes, our vacations, all your choices. Every single disagreement we ever had. I caved and gave you what you wanted. Well, fine, Lucille. You want this? You've got it. I'll file for divorce tomorrow. That hit her like a freight train. She jumped up, knocking her chair over in the process, and screamed, "No, never. I won't let you divorce me." "Too late," I said flatly. She kept going, her voice rising in desperation. "My affair with Brent it's just sex. It doesn't mean anything. You're the only one I love." One cliché after another, I interrupted, waving my hand dismissively. "Save your breath. You don't have a choice anymore." Tears welled up in her eyes as she shouted, "He's not my boyfriend. When you gave yourself to him, it was over." I replied coldly. I filed the divorce papers and had everything prepared. I even told the lawyer to hold off because Lisa, our eldest, caught me leaving his office. She cornered me and convinced me to wait, to give you the chance to come to your senses. She believed you weren't that stupid. She thought you'd end it with Brent once you realized what you were throwing away. And I listened to her, Lucille. I held back because I still loved you. But now, I shook my head. Now I see you're determined to destroy not just one, but 2 marriages. You're ready to hurt his 3 kids, still in school, and devastate our 3 daughters, all to chase after another man. Her hands trembled as she whispered, "Duncan, don't bother." I cut her off. "You've pulled the trigger, Lucille. Lisa knows everything. She told the girls, too. They're all waiting for me to decide how to handle this. So, tell me, when are you and Brent leaving?" "I don't know if I want to go," she stammered, her voice breaking. "Of course you do," I snapped. "Start packing. While we're having this conversation, Brent's wife is having the same one with him. She's kicking him out today, so he won't have anywhere to go. Convenient, isn't it? Lucky for you, you already have a non-refundable apartment waiting in Myrtle Beach. You can extend your stay there while figuring out what to do with the rest of your life." At that, Lucille broke down completely, sobbing uncontrollably. "Don't 24 years together mean anything to you?" "Obviously, they mean more to me than they do to you," I said sharply. "You're the one who threw them away, starting at the Christmas party. Instead of coming to your senses, you chose to become Brent's mistress. And when he's done with you, he'll move on to the next one. But at least I have enough respect and decency to divorce you before I start looking for someone worthy. Women like that still exist, Lucille. And I believe I deserve one." Her tear-streaked face turned desperate. "What about me?" I gave her a hard look. "You don't meet the criteria.